This is a Haag-Streit second observer tube, long, number 1400034, that fits on a Haag-Streit BQ slit lamp. It's attached to this beam splitter with this union nut, and it has a release button where you can change the angle of inclination by pressing the button and moving it and releasing the button until it catches the detent. But on this one, it doesn't catch it going one way. It only catches it going one way only. But going the other way, it doesn't even catch. Now, there are some points of access here. They're covered over with putty, the screws to get inside here. When you remove it from the beam splitter, inside here there's a snap ring, and dust may get inside the lens. So you're going to have to try to get to that. And here's your screws here. On this one, the release button broke in pieces, and so the detent would not hold. And the way this button works is there's a sprocket inside, and it actually, the pin, when you push down, it releases, gets the pin out of the way. You can turn it, and then when you release the button, it pulls it back up, and the pin locks into the sprocket. So that's how that works. This little pin locks into the teeth on this sprocket to hold it in place. And this one was broken. So that's why it was not holding. Now to get to here, inside here, you're going to have to take this snap ring off with some snap ring pliers, and it might be kind of tight in there, so while you're holding it open, you may have to use your screwdrivers to hold up each side while you're trying to work this snap ring out of this locking ring. Once you get that out, then you can take your locking ring off, and while it's inside, while it's still in here, mark everything. Get your marker and mark where things are lining up, so that when you put it back together, you can line everything back up, and then count how many times you're turning, unscrewing, and remember that, and while you're screwing it back in, you'll remember that same number. Now, on here you have a lock screw that needs to be released, so that after you've taken this ring off, this trim ring, It's got two Allens, one on each side, and this is the Tono stop post. Once that comes off, then you have access to this locking ring, and you'll notice it's got some indentions where this lock screw is going to screw down into there. So on this one it happened to be on the first one, but it's got an indentation, so when you're screwing it back together, find where that little notch is and screw it back in. It's not screwed all the way in, it's out a little bit, and so line it back up with your original tension. Be careful, this is number 4 grease, and it's really sticky. Don't clean that off. Leave that. You need that really sticky number 4 grease for the drag, for the tension. You need that tension. And basically what you'll be doing is you'll be putting your button in with the spring and just holding it down until you slide your sprocket back in. It's going to slide right in here. You're holding it down and it'll slide in. Then you can release it and it will hold. As soon as you pull this out, see, then you can pull your button out. So the sprocket actually holds the button in. So when you're reinserting it, hold it down and push your sprocket all the way in. Turn this so that the flat side is going with the sprocket. Then you can push it in, and that'll hold your button in, and then screw back in the number of turns. This one was 4 3/4 turns. Line it back up to the lock position, screw that in, and put your ring back on, your locking nut back in, and then your snap ring. You may only need to have to switch. This is a one piece. This is not 2 pieces. You can't take this cap off. It's glued. It's formed on here. You're not taking that off. The only way to take that out is to pull the sprocket up, and then that will release the button. Now, unfortunately, what happened with this one, because it broke in pieces, those greasy parts were all floating around, and the prism had grease on it. This lens still has grease on it on the inside, so be sure and clean your lenses and your prism before you put it back together. You may have to use something to get, first of all, to get the grease off, and then use your glass cleaner with some swabs to clean both your prism and your lenses before you put everything back together. After you've got your lens clean and your prism clean and it's time to put it together, you might want to, before you put the spring on, make sure that it's going to be going inside this glide bolt all the way, and you might want to put a little rim oil on here on this button. Wipe it off. And also inside this guide bolt, go ahead and put some rim oil, just a light coat on there. And then just test your button, make sure it's going to go in well. Okay, it looks like it's going to operate smoothly. So we can pull that back out, and we can now put our sprocket in. We've marked it to where we're aiming. We can put it in there. We won't put it all the way in yet because we have to get our button down, but we can get it into place. Let's slide it in, not all the way. We'll get our spring. Put it on top of the guide bolt. Put our button in. Make sure the flat side is towards the back because the gears are going to go, the sprocket's going to go in there, so it's going to go like that. And we'll push it down all the way. Make sure it operates. See, we can pull back out if we want it because this isn't in yet. So it's operating. Now we'll press it and push our sprocket gear all the way in, and we'll test it to see if it's really working. Pressing the release. So it's in place. Now we can put our ring in. Remember where we're going to be putting our lock screw in. This one, it was on the first one, and counting them, the times I was coming out was 4 3/4 for me. So I'm going to put it back to where it was and count my 4 1/2 times, 4 3/4 times. When you can't turn it anymore, go ahead and get your spanner wrench or whatever you use to take it off and continue to tighten the nut until it lines back up. And what we can do, we can take our screw out and we can see where the indentation is. So we'll take that out. Now we can watch to where it lines up. Once we have reached our point, we can look inside here and see right where our set screw is sitting, and we can install that set screw. If you weren't really counting how many times, it's probably almost all the way in, and then you might have to back out. So if you don't remember, just screw it all the way in and then look at your view and find where your set screws landed, and that's probably your spot. So we've got that lined up. We can put our set screw back in. Okay, we can test it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to test it right now because we've screwed it all in tight. So we'll put our ring in and try to remember what angle it came out of. And we'll notice on each side are the marks where the screws are going to go in. So we'll line up our holes and tighten them up with our Allen. We can put our new Tono stop pin we can test it now. Detents both ways, so we know it's working correctly. Now we can put our lock ring back on. And our snap ring. It's going to be a little tight because it was hard coming off, and it might be a little hard going back in, but you just have to keep working it. Okay, I finally got mine on. Took a while. It took a while getting off, and it took a while getting back on, but it was easier to put on than it was to take off. What I did is I got the back of the snap ring down first, and then I worked the front of it and was able to squeeze it in. There's just enough room to get it in there. And also, like when you're taking it off, when you squeeze it and lift up both sides, get 2 screwdrivers and lift up both sides first and squeeze and get it out that way. That's how I found it comes out. And you can test it. Should be working. And here's a diagram of the parts. And the assembly installation procedure. And then the final test will be, once it's on the slit lamp, making sure your Tono stop is in the right position so that it stops on the detent. So if it stopped further, then you might have gotten this on the wrong side. But the Allens up here are 90 degrees or straight, so the Tono stop is to the right at the angle. So if you're trying to remember which way to turn that ring, it's going to be pointing towards the front. And testing it, making sure everything is detenting both ways. And your view should not be changed because we're not messing with the prism alignment. All we're doing was moving the lens in and out. So your alignment should be the same as when you started. And when you're all done, everything looks good. You can go ahead and cover up those screws like the factory did with some plumber's putty. Just put a little dab on top of the screws to hide them. That will make it like factory.